What's going on, world? You're tuned into the Down Money Show. When you're talking real estate, you're talking money down, you're talking down money. And I'm your host, Ransford, Renaldo, Philadelphia, sitting in the front row, but you know we're also speaking to the greater world. I got in front of us today, Christa Barfield, 2024 James Beard Leadership Award winner for Farmer Jawn. Christa, how you doing today?
I'm excellent. Happy to be here.
Well, happy to have you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us.
Absolutely.
Farmer Jawn, how did all of this start?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very loaded question, but I think I'll say that it began with me in search of Christa, really trying to find what I was supposed to be doing in this world. I worked in healthcare for 10 years. It's a true passion of mine, science, medicine, health. And working in traditional healthcare in a corporate environment, I manage practices at a very high level for some of the top docs in our region, honestly in the world. And it led me to a place of just not being focused on my own health and wellness. And so I decided to, very much so on a whim, quit my job one day, not planned. I walked into work thinking I was going to work, which I still did. But when I sat down at my computer about 8 a.m., January 2nd, 2018 to be specific, I sent a resignation email. Something just hit me and I was like, this isn't it.
Wow. So, and I want to touch on something. So you said the journey to find Christa.
Yeah.
And in that journey, you decided that this was it.
So honestly, agriculture found me, farming found me. So I was on a search for myself and agriculture found me. And what happened for that to take place is, after resigning from my job, I took a trip to Martinique, and it was my very first time out of the country in 2018, and I chose a francophone country because I grew up speaking French and never really used it for about 10 years. And so Martinique I chose, got to see people that looked like me there that also speak French, and they just so happened to be farmers. So I met black farmers on that trip because they owned my Airbnb. So it was not planned in any way, and the rest is history, shall we say.
Talk to me a little bit about the business. This is a nonprofit, and you also have a for-profit.
Correct. So I'm a hybrid organization in which our for-profit really does focus on the production. We focus on business elements that are revenue generating, right? We grow food. We focus on growing it regeneratively and organically. That's super key for me because I do come from a health background. We grow nothing with chemicals at all. The majority of our food system in America is not grown in that way. So we are really testing the model for many folks to try to get other farmers to convert, if you will, to outside of the conventional model and into organic, but not just organic, but also regenerative, where we're taking care of not only people, but also the planet at the same time. And the nonprofit is an educational platform for all of this because many of the farmers are aging out. People get older, right? The average age of a farm is around 50 to 60 years old. We need to start training the next generation of farmers, and we also need to give special interest to black and brown people because of our history.
For sure, definitely.
The history for black people, the exploitation of black bodies when it comes to agriculture in America and other westernized communities as well. So we're testing the model out again in the nonprofit space, saying, I bet you we can train people to not only understand the fundamentals of farming, but also how to run a business so that they can be profitable and sustainable, and reposition black people really back into the space of agriculture where we're struggling to keep our 1% of farmers who are currently black. Yeah.
So break this down for us a little bit more. Regenerative, excuse me, gotta pronounce it correctly, regenerative organic food production. What is that?
Yeah, so really it comes down to how we take care of people and planet. That's really the focus, and that a lot of people, when you grow food, most of the farms that you see, if you see farms, you're seeing them grown and they have no weeds. There's not a weed to be found anywhere, and that's because chemicals are being sprayed. Chemicals like Roundup, if you will. Glyphosate is the name of the active ingredient in that.
So you're saying we're eating Roundup on a daily?
Definitely. Yeah, your GI tracts definitely have traces of glyphosate in them without a doubt, because it's almost impossible not to with how our food is grown. You have to be very intentional about not doing that, and that's why people are now searching out organic food. That's also why organic food tends to be more expensive, because it is more labor intensive to be able to create. But the focus of adding in that regenerative piece is taking care of the planet as well. So that organic food is taking care of the soil and taking care of our bodies when we're eating it because there's no chemicals involved. But the regenerative part is also like, okay, we don't want to use plastic to help combat the weeds. We want to be more intentional about it. Maybe we're picking it by hand. Maybe we're weeding by hand, more of that. Or maybe we're using small equipment, small machinery that's not disturbing the soil too much. And then we're ultimately sequestering carbon, because that's the other big thing. The majority of our soil, when you see people using chemicals, is so bare that we're just, the sun and the earth and the environment are like trying to work together to not kill us. We're making it harder for the earth to flourish, and that's really what we need to do a better job of. And it really does start with how we're taking care of the plants that we're growing. So our air quality is better when the soil is healthier. Our water quality is better when the soil is healthier. And so that's what we're making sure of.
Nice. Because I'm really not trying to die today.
No, not today, not tomorrow either.
Yeah, it's a good time to live.
I kind of want a little stretch of my lineage, my generations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's start making food a little bit better. So talk to me about this name, because I love it. It is so Philadelphia.
Very.
It is so culturally driven. Mm-hmm. The word Jawn.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people don't know. The Philly people, they know about Jawn.
Most of them.
Break it down. Well, if you don't know about Jawn, you're not from Philly.
It's true. It's funny how many people I meet that aren't familiar with it, and it's just not a part of their like normal colloquialisms, right? But Jawn is a Philly word. It means person, place, or thing, right? Jawn. And so when I say Farmer Jawn, people always think I'm saying Farmer John. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, okay, John. Like, that's pretty normal farm name. But I say no, it's Jawn, and it means person, place, or thing. And really, when I thought of the name, it's a love story to Philadelphia. That's how it began. It was like, this is a love story to my city. It's a love note to you, saying that you deserve the best and the best and the greatest food.
A little representation.
Yeah, you deserve the best and the greatest food, and you need to, one, know how to grow it. Or if you don't plan on being a farmer, and that's fine. I know some people, especially during COVID, were all like in the garden, and that was great. But there are time deficits that we still have. So there are professionals, like back in the day, where you knew who your farmer was. And so how I look at what Farmer Jawn is meant to be is that either you learn how to grow food, or you at least know who your farmer is. And currently, that's me. That's what Farmer Jawn is. This enterprise that we're building. Our team here are so proud to call themselves farmers and to be farmers and stewards of the land and growing organic and regenerative organic food. And so that's what it's all about. So it started city-based, but now, we're national and working on worldwide.
Now, I'm going to be very direct here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think this helps the Black community?
Yeah, I mean, on so many levels. It's the see it, be it mentality. There aren't many people who control our food narratives in a healthy way, right? When we think about our traditions of food as Black people, we are not eating the best. And that's simply all deep-seated in systemic racism. The foods that were made available to us, we did the best we could to make them taste good. And we built traditions around that. A lot of sorrow is a part of our food, right? And many people don't even know that, even us. Like, we don't even know where that comes from, the fact that why we eat collard greens and why we eat ham hocks and why we eat certain deep fried things. Like, all of that is directly related to systemic racism. And so we are rising above. We're rising above to at least have control over what's going into our food. In the South, before, the chemical revolution, we were growing our food when we got here. That's what we knew. When they took, during the transatlantic slave trade, and they took us from Africa, they took the best of the best. They took the smartest, the fastest, the strongest, the best cooks. They did all of that. It was very strategic. And so now a lot of our tradition in farming got lost because when we migrated to the North, all of that was lost. So we're getting back to our roots, really. We're getting back to our connection to the land. And Farmer Jawn is really all about reintroducing farming back into the lifestyles of us.
That's beautiful. Truly beautiful. We need more people doing the work, more people taking the time to educate the community on best practices and how they can get involved. Again, just hats off to everything you're doing.
I appreciate that.
Now, being Black, running a farm, going against everything you just mentioned.
Yes.
A lot of challenges.
Many.
Talk to us about
Ongoing.
it. forever.
Well, I will say it also because right. So, okay, let me start here. I'm a multi-site farm, which means that we are a urban and suburban and rural-ish business model, whereas I believe that we should have one complete food system. So our food system is very disjointed currently all across the nation, where you have food coming in, driven into places where there's actually already food growing. And so a lot of what I do is really focus on making sure that our food system, we know where it comes from, and we can start with our own state. There's so much food growing here. So what our food does, we keep it in our state primarily, or in our tri-state, or at least within 150 miles. Like, we don't want our food being transported all over the place, because one, you lose nutrition, and two, the cost has to go up if it's being transported. So that's also why we're seeing a lot of our food costs, even in the markets, higher, because we're paying for transportation of it. Again, we want to keep people healthy, and we don't want you to pay more than you should. And so we're going against this, decades of what have become traditions for people to go to their farmer's market, or they go to a farm store, and they feel like they're connected to their environment. When I'm telling them, for years, the soils have been pummeled with harmful chemicals to yourself, for your air quality, and for your water. And that's not something that people are trying to hear, because they're just so used to something, right? And so if I'm a healthcare professional, which I am and always will be, I am only going to do things in the manner that is protecting environmental health, physical health of people, and social health, so that we can actually connect around food that is not, filled with harmful chemicals. So that's really difficult to be able to get that message across to people. Land access is hard, and we don't own land, we lease our land. So I'm a land steward and a business owner. We lease this land, right? And we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the land that we lease in our region, and that's worth it to me. So yes, while it's challenging, it's something that has to happen so that we can get out of this flurry of disparity that we've been stuck in as a people.
See, I love what you said there at the end, the getting out of this flurry of disparity. Because at the end of the day, you could talk about systematic racism, you could talk about all the things, but you got to also have some accountability.
Absolutely.
As to what you're doing on the daily basis. How are you educating yourself?
Yeah.
You got supercomputers in your pockets. How are we using those? And I love that you're doing it. And I also love that you spoke on the business aspects and the logistics of putting this thing together. Because that's a very important piece that I feel like a lot of people don't understand. So here's something else that I just love that you guys are doing. Getting into the communities, really getting into the communities, and creating real change in a practical level. Because a lot of times there's this big vision, right?
Yes.
About how you're going to create change.
Yep.
But change is created one person at a time.
It is.
Now, you guys are opening up food places, healthy food, in Kensington.
Yes, the first one will be there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this Kensington project.
So it's called Corner Jawn.
Corner Jawn.
Corner Jawn.
That's a Philly place if I ever heard it. Corner Jawn.
Yeah, so the goal of Corner Jawn is to make farming convenient, right? So how do we get so health despair? Black people are the unhealthiest population in this nation. How did that happen? And if I look at the now and where we are and how we can really impact our food system, we have to, if I say that I'm a farmer and I want to grow all this healthy food, well, it could matter a hill of beans if I can't get it to the people who need it.
Exactly.
And there's only but so much that can be done through organizations that like food banks, because everybody's not going to the food bank. And I just think about me growing up. I worked in I don't even know what middle class is, but whatever we want to call that, where I wasn't necessarily eligible for food stamps, but I could definitely use some food stamps, right? So I'm in that middle where there's a lot of people fall into that because you work too many hours, or they say you make too much, but you still have mouths to feed at home.
It's the not hungry but still struggling.
Definitely, yeah. So I would call it surviving, but I would love to be thriving, but I'm definitely just surviving, and I'm paycheck to paycheck. And so this is so many people's story. I'm not unique in this regard. So when I think about us, that group of people that are not eligible for food stamps, and then you have the wealthy, and then you have the people in the middle, I'm like, we're the ones that are going to the corner stores also. So that means everybody can benefit from this corner store, because whether you don't have enough money and you fall below the poverty line, or you're like in that middle, or you're wealthy, everybody goes to the corner store. So this means I can impact change on a wide scale using a vehicle that's known, that people are familiar with. You know your bodega, you know your corner store, you have your favorite one in your neighborhood that you go to. You know the people that work there, they know you, they know your family. It might be pictures of you on their walls. Like, that's how I grew up. Like, you know who they are, and they know you. So I want that familiarity when it comes to farming. Like, I want people to know who their neighborhood farmer is, and that model of like that village mentality, bringing that back through corner stores. So ultimately, Farmer Jawn is creating a number of different corner stores, starting with Philadelphia, called Corner Jawn, and they are a food is medicine concept corner store, where we have grab and go items like soup, salads, and sandwiches, things you would go to, to the back of the store and try to order. We'll have our own version of it in a much healthier way. We'll also have smoothies and juices that are also freshly made, and a number of all the produce items that we're growing at our farms to be positioned there. The key that makes it different from what your normal corner store would be is that these also need to be gathering spaces. These are community gathering spaces. So each and every one of our Corner Jawns also have an adjacent garden with it, so people can actually see food growing and understand the connection between food and farming. So that is how we're making it unique and putting our own spin on it. But our very first one opens in Kensington, which is the most unhealthiest neighborhood in the city of Philadelphia. And that's how we're going to keep rolling.
That's beautiful. Jumping right into the thick of it. Kensington. Philly, people from Philly don't even go to Kensington.
No, they don't.
So the fact that you're starting there, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So how do people get involved with this? Because you need people to do this. Run the store,
yes,
move product,
definitely,
plant the things. How can they add their value?
Oh my goodness, I love that you said add value, because in agriculture we say something called value add, and that's one of the biggest things, because everybody's not going to work for Farmer Jawn, but everybody can work with Farmer Jawn, and in many different ways. And there are the program we do through our Agripreneur Academy, which is our nonprofit. We are teaching people how to create their own value-added products and get them to market, like get them on store shelves. And this is especially for people that are Black and brown, that have less of an opportunity to be able to create something from scratch. But say if I'm growing peppers and you have an idea for a hot sauce recipe, okay, let's work together to make that come to life. I can grow whatever peppers you need. My team can do that for you. Whatever ingredients you need for this sauce, create it. I can help you get bottled, labeled, barcodes, and all of that. And then now here's your product on our shelf. So that's how I really want to interface with community products that already exist, and then helping people create new ones. And then volunteering, just being able to come to our store, put your hands in soil, which, like I said, every location will have a growing space, and come for our community workshops that we're having, or simply just send us a nice message on Instagram, because that also goes a long way for us. So there's just so many ways to get involved, whether you're here in the Philadelphia area or even if you're not. Farmer Jawn is definitely coming to a city near you.
That's nice. So I think the big thing there that you covered is the greater, all you can do is send a comment, do it. Mm-hmm. It's like just a simple like, hey guys, I see what you're doing, keep it going.
Yeah.
That's everything.
It means a lot.
And what you're doing is hard work.
Indeed.
So please, if you're out there and you think what she's doing is dope, send a comment and say, hey, keep going. Another thing you're doing, and I think this definitely helps the community, you're turning vacant properties into food production hubs. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of vacant properties throughout the Black community.
Oh, yeah.
We thrive on vacant communities.
We do.
Vacant properties.
There's lots everywhere. I mean, they become gathering spaces, mm-hmm, or yep, growing spaces, yeah.
So what does that exactly look like, the vacant properties, and turning it into grow operations? Is that involve the store? Is that a logistics thing?
Somewhat. It's slightly different, because like urban food justice, and what it means to me is taking these empty lots that are through every city, literally everyone, not just Philadelphia, and turning them into spaces where food can be growing, and 40,000 empty lots in the city of Philadelphia alone. About 10,000 of them are owned by the city, and the rest of them are owned by private, usually people that want to sell them to developers. You know, there's a lot of gentrification happening in our city. That's not going to stop. It's not going to go anywhere. But what we have to do is create these empty lots that are blighted as spaces that provide hope to the community and also provide jobs to the community. And that's the biggest part. Economic development has to be a part of how we make change happen. Because if it doesn't make money and there's not an opportunity for taxes to be paid, then it's not high on the priority list for our cities. The cities that we all live in, they have a lot of things to manage. And from our mayor and to everybody that's underneath of them and all of that, there's just so many things to manage, and we have to help them help us. And the way that I think of doing that is going to them in every single city and saying, hey, what lots do you own? Let us focus on the ones that are heavy traffic areas, high population areas, and create in the lots that you don't have any particular plans for, let us put actual growing spaces where we use the city's money that's already budgeted because we're already paying taxes in different ways. We can reallocate some funds and hire farmers to be able to actually manage these plots of land and get away from the traditional community garden model, because the traditional community garden model is great. It creates green spaces in our communities, but it's not actually feeding masses, which they actually could if we do them properly. Instead of it being a hobby culture, which is what community gardens are, you know, people love putting their hands in soil for something to do, but let's also make this a productive area where money is being made, where taxes are getting paid out of this, and we're actually feeding people. And this is a priority now. So that is what I'd love to see for Philadelphia, something I'm working towards, and I believe this is a replicable model for nationwide.
You talking that stuff. You brought your A game. You talking that stuff.
Yeah.
Talking that talk. I love it. I love it. See, the thing is, you're very practical in your approach. And that's the thing that I truly believe the community is missing. And we need more of that.
Yeah, it has to make sense, right?
Exactly. It's got to make money.
It got to make money.
Makes sense.
It does, and we have. That's what I'm saying. Like, everything can't be a hobby. Everything can't be volunteer. We have to create economic development for our cities.
Definitely. So you guys also, just jumping into this, subscription models for good food.
Yeah, definitely.
What does that look like? Do you bring it to the house?
So we do in some cases, or we have hubs throughout the city where we drop off and then all of our members can pick a location where they like to pick up. But the subscription model is not new. It's not new at all. And this is Booker T. Watley is an amazing farmer who was actually trained by George Washington Carver, Peanuts. People know him by Peanuts. But you know, they had already been doing such amazing work to make food accessible, healthy food accessible. And Booker T. Watley came up with this idea that we now know is the traditional CSA, where farmers all over the world are utilizing this model. And it's pretty much a subscription. It is. And it's right on time, right, for it to be like in full motion for Black and brown people to know what this is. Because when I first got into farming and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a CSA farm, I only knew about CSA because I traveled to Martinique and that's what I saw. I saw this model and then I came home and I was like, oh, that's the CSA that I saw them doing. So I had no knowledge that you can get fresh food directly from your farm. Never knew that. And being as though I grew up in Germantown section of Philadelphia, the closest farm to me was only 10 minutes away and they had a CSA and I never knew about it my entire life. So it's not marketed to us. That's what I realized. It's not marketed to us, it's not grown by us, and it's not grown for us. So that's when I was like, okay, we have to transition this and we have to make it accessible. CSAs are typically between $500 to $1,000 for the whole season, which is great price point, but it's difficult, especially if I think about what I was doing before in my work, to think that I was going to drop $500 to a farm for, even though it's a good cause, and be able to get, you know, hundreds of pounds of produce the next year. My mind couldn't wrap my around giving up $500 at once. And so many people are like that, and it makes sense to me. So we have an equity CSA in addition to our other CSA options, where you pay a nominal rate at once, and then you just pay weekly during seasons.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, getting back to what you mentioned about the community getting involved and sending recipes and being accessible, like, I think that's beautiful. I saw a little bit about you having like an incubator. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah, so the Agripreneur Academy is our incubator, and that's
Okay.
where we focus on twofold: people that are focused on being farmers and the people that are wanting to be in the food business. So, and I call it agripreneur because even if you are not particularly putting your hands in soil, you can still be an agripreneur. You can still be a part of the agriculture realm. And so we really make sure the people that come to us after our 9-month program, they leave with understanding how to be a food actor and how to support farmers as well. So that's really what I love about the Agripreneur cohort. It is an incubator for people who are looking to transition from their current careers or lifestyles and transition to a more agrarian lifestyle.
This is my last question. So you spoke about putting healthy foods in schools.
Yeah.
Now that has been big for years. We took the vending machines out, we
Yep.
took the sodas out. Now we got to get some healthy foods in there.
Yes, I'm so excited about that you're asking
What does
about
that look
this.
like?
Yeah.
Are you
so-
going to bring the foods in there?
Oh, it's happening. It's
okay.
happening.
Where's it happening at?
So I was at the governor's residence a few weeks ago when he delivered the budget address for this year, and Mayor Sherelle Parker was also in the building. So it was nice to get her and I got some FaceTime, and I told her, I was like, I'm going to revolutionize what hunger currently looks like. Is not going to be what it looks like in the next decade, and we are going to make sure that there are no hungry children in the city of Philadelphia. And she looked at me and she was like, okay. Like, it was like this look like, I hear you, I see you, but I understand that the way that we've been doing it cannot be the way that we continue to move forward. We have to shake it up. We have to be disruptors in this food system space. And that's what Farmer Jawn is. That's what I believe in. And growing 1 million pounds of food is a goal that I have to continue to grow so much food that is organic and that is regeneratively grown, chemical free, and make sure that there's a large portion of that going to our kids, our local schools, and universities. We are directly across the street at our largest farm from Cheney University, HBCU, arguably the first HBCU in the nation, and Lincoln is about 30 minutes down the road. So those are the two first HBCUs in the entire country, and they're right here in Philadelphia's backyard. So, we need to not only change the food for our younger population, but also for these emerging adults that we're sending out with knowledge. They need to also understand the knowledge needs to be also how to eat properly and how to eat well, because they're going to be the next parents that are also coming into the spaces. And because they're black and brown, we need them to know how to eat well now, as young as possible. And so that's who we're focusing on and who we're targeting for our Healthy Food Initiative.
You're affecting some change here.
I sure hope so.
You're affecting some change. If nobody's told you yet, just know, let me be the first.
I appreciate you.
You're really doing the work here. So, world, Philadelphia specifically, you're tuned into the Down Money Show, where if you're talking real estate, you're talking money down, you're talking down money, and you're also talking Farmer Jawn to all my Philly Jawns.